Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something really crucial if you're planning for the future. Where are the best places to actually retire?
Yeah, it's a huge question.
We've got this great study here from the Motley Fool, their best states to retire in 2025 report. And what's cool is they talked to real people, 1,500 Americans, 55 and older.
Exactly. They asked them what really matters when picking a retirement spot.
So this isn't just, some random list. It's based on what folks like you thinking about retirement actually prioritize.
Right. So today we'll dig into how they built this ranking, what factors came out on top, and, well, which states ended up looking good, or maybe not so good, based on those priorities.
Should give you a clearer picture, hopefully.
That's the plan.
Okay, so let's talk methodology. How did Motley Fool actually put this list together? It wasn't random, you said.
Definitely not. Like you mentioned, they surveyed those 1,500 people about their priorities.
Okay.
And from that, they pulled out 7 key factors. Then they weighted them based on, how important people said they were.
7 factors. Got it. What were they? Any surprises?
Well, the biggest one, maybe not surprisingly, was quality of life. That came in at 15.2%.
Makes sense.
Then, super close behind, housing cost at 14.9%.
Ah, the money stuff. Always important.
Yep. And right there, too, were healthcare, both quality and cost, and the crime rate, both at 14.8%.
Wow, neck and neck.
Pretty much. After that, you had taxes at 13.7%, the general cost of living separate from housing at 13.6%.
Okay.
And finally, weather at 13.1%.
Weather last. Interesting. Still significant, though, at 13%.
Still matters, yeah. But maybe slightly less than, say, feeling safe or being able to afford your home.
So they got the priorities straight from retirees. Then what? Did they just rank states based on opinion?
No. That's where the data comes in. They pulled information from a whole bunch of different sources for each factor.
Like what kind of sources?
Okay, so for quality of life, they use something called the Sharecare Community Wellbeing Index. Housing cost. That was Zillow's Home Value Index. Healthcare info came from the United Health Foundation's senior report. Crime stats from the FBI Crime Data Explorer.
Okay, reputable stuff.
Yeah. Then cost of living data from C2ER. Weather temps from NOAA averaged over 5 years. And tax burden info from the Tax Foundation.
Wow, that's thorough.
It is. And then they normalized all that data, basically put it on the same scale, and applied those weights from the survey to get a final score for each state out of 100.
Okay, a really solid process. So after all that work, drum roll please, which state hit number 1?
Top of the list for 2025 with a perfect score of 100 is Florida.
Florida. Okay, I guess that's not a huge shocker. Sunshine state, right?
The warm weather definitely helps average temp around 73 degrees, but that wasn't the only thing.
What else pushed it to the top?
It also scored well on Trime above average, actually, and has a relatively low tax burden.
Low taxes are always attractive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And its quality of life score was strong, too. Housing costs, healthcare, general cost of living, those are more average.
So not necessarily the cheapest across the board, but a really good balance, maybe.
Seems like it, yeah. That combination of strengths really clicked with the priorities from the survey.
And the article even quoted Mark Wilson from the Florida Chamber of Commerce, right? He mentioned the low taxes, healthcare, infrastructure.
Airports, cruise ports, beaches, all of it. They also highlighted Naples and Sarasota as top spots within Florida.
Okay, Florida number 1. Who came in second?
All right, number 2 with a score of 92, Nebraska.
Nebraska. Okay, that one's maybe a bit more surprising. Not exactly known for beaches.
Yeah, no. But what Nebraska does have is affordability. Big time.
How so?
A really good score on housing costs. The average home value was around $259,000, according to Zillow then, plus a low overall cost of living.
That's huge for people on a fixed income.
Definitely. Plus, it has a strong crime score. Pretty good rankings for quality of life and public health.
So safety and affordability are the draws there.
Exactly. Casey Blitz from their Department of Economic Development was quoted saying just that, safe and affordable.
But the weather. Average temp just over 50 degrees. And taxes weren't great either.
Right. Those were its weaker points, definitely. But clearly for some retirees, safety and keeping costs down outweigh sunshine and low taxes.
Interesting trade-offs. Okay, who's number 3?
Number 3 with a score of 89 is Maryland.
Maryland. Okay, what's its story?
Maryland's big strengths are quality of life, ranked 3rd overall in that category, and public health, where it ranked 10th. The weather is also pretty moderate, average around 57 degrees.
Sounds pretty good. So what's the catch? There's usually a catch.
The catch is cost. Maryland is pretty expensive.
Ah, high housing costs.
Yep. Average home value over $418,000. High cost of living generally, and high taxes too.
Ouch. So great quality of life if you can afford it.
Basically, yeah.
Mm.
Governor Wes Moore talked up the scenery, the cities, healthcare, arts. But that price tag is a big factor.
Right. Okay, number 4.
Number 4, we actually have a tie. Both Minnesota and Wisconsin scored 87. Let's take Minnesota first.
Minnesota, another chilly one. Average temp, 43 degrees.
Yeah, weather's not its strong suit. Neither's the tax situation, although they're working on that.
So why rank so high?
Exceptional scores for public health and for crime, very low crime rates. And the cost of living is pretty decent, too, ranked 32nd, so better than many.
Okay, so high on health and safety, decent cost of living.
Exactly. Governor Tim Walz mentioned they're trying to eliminate Social Security taxes for most seniors and investing in aging services and safety. So addressing some potential concerns.
Makes sense. And the other state at number 4, tied with Minnesota.
That's Wisconsin, also scoring 87.
Wisconsin, similar story to Minnesota maybe. Cold weather, but other strengths.
Pretty similar theme, yeah. Wisconsin scores well on affordability, relatively affordable housing, low cost of living.
Housing costs there.
Average home value around $306,000, so quite a bit cheaper than Maryland, for example.
Definitely.
It also has one of the lowest crime rates in the U.S. and a strong public health score.
And the downsides?
Again, the weather averaged temp around 45 degrees. And its quality of life and tax scores were more middling, kind of average.
So affordable, safe, good health care, but maybe not the most exciting quality of life score or best tax situation, and definitely cold.
That sums it up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa Hunt from their Economic Development Association highlighted the diverse housing, safety, and community feel.
Okay, so that's the top 5. Florida, Nebraska, Maryland, and then Minnesota and Wisconsin tied. Interesting mix.
Very diverse, yeah. Shows different priorities lead to different best places.
Absolutely. Now we have to look at the other side. Which states ended up at the bottom of the list?
Okay, the state ranked 50th, dead last, with a score of 0, is New Mexico.
0! Wow, that's stark. What's going on there, according to the study?
Well, it's not all bad. New Mexico actually has pretty strong scores for housing cost and overall cost of living. It's relatively affordable.
Okay, so affordability isn't the issue. What is?
The big problems are crime. It had the worst crime rate in the study and quality of life, where it ranked second lowest. Healthcare score was also quite low.
Yikes. So even though it's affordable and the weather's okay, average 55 degrees, those other factors just dragged it way down.
Seems that way, yeah. Those are major concerns for retirees.
Understandable. Okay, who's just above New Mexico at number 49?
Number 49 with a score of 16. California.
California. That's surprising, too. It's a different way. Lots of people want to retire there, don't they? Sunshine, lifestyle.
They do. And California actually scores really well on some things. 6th highest quality of life, good weather score, pretty strong crime ranking, too.
So what's the problem? Let me guess. Cost.
Bingo. It has the 2nd highest housing costs in the nation. Average home value over $770,000.
Oh.
Plus the 3rd highest cost of living overall and the 5th highest tax burden. Healthcare was just kind of mediocre, too.
So the dream comes with a massive price tag that pushes it down for many retirees in this survey.
Exactly. Affordability just tanks its overall score despite the positives.
Makes sense. Number 48.
Number 48 score 17 is New York.
Another expensive one, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah. New York actually had the worst tax score in the whole country.
The worst. Ouch.
Yep. Plus, expensive housing average over $480,000 and a low crime rating.
But doesn't have good quality of life like California, culture, things to do.
It does, actually. 5th best quality of life score. But again, like California, the huge financial burden seems to outweigh that for the retirees surveyed. Healthcare and weather were just okay, sort of middle of the pack.
Oh, seeing a pattern here with high-cost states. Okay, 47th?
Number 47, score of 18, is Arkansas.
Arkansas. Now, I'd guess that one is probably more affordable.
You'd be right. It's among the most affordable states for both general living cost and buying a home, average home value, just around $208,000.
That's a huge difference from California or New York, so why is it ranked so low?
The low scores came in quality of life, public health, and crime. Those areas really pulled it down.
Even with decent weather, average around 62 degrees.
Yeah, seems the affordability and weather weren't enough to overcome the low rankings in those other key areas for the people surveyed.
Gotcha. And rounding out the bottom 5, number 46.
Number 46, score of 19, is Nevada.
Nevada. Las Vegas, Reno. What's its issue? Cost. Safety.
That's kind of interesting. It's actually pretty middling on a lot of factors. Quality of life, housing costs, taxes, weather, cost of living, mostly average scores.
So what pulls it down near the bottom?
The main culprits seem to be low scores specifically for public health and for crime. Those two factors really hurt its overall ranking.
So not terrible across the board, but weak in a couple of critical areas.
Exactly.
It's really fascinating to see how these different priorities shake out in the rankings. You said quality of life was the #1 factor overall for the survey respondents. What exactly goes into that score? It sounds a bit vague.
It does sound a bit broad, but the Share Care Index they used is pretty comprehensive. It looks at physical well-being, financial well-being, social connections, community pride, sense of purpose.
Okay, so quite holistic.
Yeah, and also things like access to healthcare, access to food, housing, transportation, economic security. The survey folks also specifically mentioned wanting good retail and dining, outdoor recreation, cultural stuff, spiritual communities, retiree groups, things that make life enjoyable day to day.
Right, the texture of life, not just the basics.
Precisely.
And affordability housing and cost of living was right up there, too. That's pretty straightforward, I guess.
Mostly, yeah. Housing costs was the Zillow index. General cost of living was the C2ER index, which looks at non-housing expenses. And, with financial well-being taking a hit recently for older Americans, it's no surprise that keeping costs manageable is a huge priority.
Absolutely. And healthcare, you stressed it was quality and affordability.
Yes, both were important. The ranking used America's Health Ranking Senior Report, which considers not just cost and availability, but also the quality of care and, importantly, the actual health outcomes for seniors in that state.
That makes a big difference. It's not just about having doctors, but about good results. And safety, measured by crime rates. Pretty clear cut.
Yeah, they use the FBI data, violent crimes per 100,000 people, a fairly standard measure for safety.
Okay. And taxes. You mentioned the Tax Foundation's burden metric.
Right. That looks at the effective state and local tax rate, basically. What percentage of income people actually pay in taxes overall. It's a good way to compare the total tax bite.
Even though specific retirement income taxes might vary.
Right. This gives a broader picture of the overall tax environment, which is still really relevant for retirees' budgets.
And finally, weather. You said they used average temperature because it's hard to rank subjectively.
Yeah, everyone wants something different, right? Some want 4 seasons, some want endless summer. So they went with a simple metric.
Yeah.
The 5-year average temperature, noting that, warmer winters are often preferred by retirees moving states.
A pragmatic approach to a tricky factor.
Kinda had to be.
Okay, so just to quickly recap. The Motley Fool study, based on what retirees say they want, puts Florida, Nebraska, Maryland, Minnesota, and Wisconsin as the top 5 for 2025, driven by things like quality of life, cost, safety, healthcare.
Right, a mix depending on the state.
And at the bottom, we saw New Mexico, California, New York, Arkansas, and Nevada, often pulled down by high costs or low scores in quality of life, safety, or healthcare.
That's the gist of it. But, and this is really important,
Go on.
this ranking reflects the average priorities of 1,500 people. It's a great starting point, a great tool for thinking. But the absolute best state for you, that depends entirely on your personal situation.
Your finances, what you value most.
Exactly. Maybe you don't mind cold weather if it means fantastic health care and low cost. Maybe you're willing to pay California prices for that lifestyle and weather. It's personal.
Absolutely. Which leads to a good final thought, perhaps. As you, the listener, think about all this, the rankings, the factors, what's the one thing that's absolutely non-negotiable for your retirement?
Yeah, what's your deal breaker?
Is it cost? Proximity to family, access to specific health care, weather. Identifying that single most important factor might lead you to a completely different place than the top of this list, something to definitely mull over.
Good question to ponder.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.